Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I have a fun card idea that actually has a removable pin, like a brooch lapel pin, that is used on it as an embellishment. So I love this because not only do you have a pretty sparkly card, but you also have something you can wear, and these are just perfect on the lapel of your coat or jacket, and it's just fun. And if you don't want to do a pin, you can always put a magnet on this, and it could be a fridge magnet, or you could just glue it onto the card for an embellishment. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. This video is brought to you by pegstamps.com, the fine folks at Rubber Stamp Tapestry, and the coupon code PINS is still active for the rest of November to save you 10% on your mounted stamp order. There's so many stamps that will work well for this technique. I've done some examples with a bunch of these, but the one that I'm going to use today is this one. It's a small holly, just because it fits the small size of our stamps, but I'll also show you some options with a candy cane and gingerbread and other stamps you see here. We're going to be using some different supplies that you probably already have, and we're going to have some fun today. So because I used bottle caps the other day, somebody had asked me how I flatten them, and I'll show you that today. First I want to show you what they look like when you buy an uncirculated bottle cap. A regular bottle cap is more, that's been on a bottle, is all these crimps are all pinched up, so they kind of go straight up, which you could totally use for this project. It'll just be a little bit thicker. That's not a big deal. But if you have an uncirculated one, and you can buy these by the bag at any natural food store that has like a brewery supply section, they're really fun to use, and they're not very expensive. So what I do when I want to flatten a bottle cap, you could also use a rubber mallet and just like smash it. I put it like down on something hard and I smash it with a rubber mallet, but kind of a better way to do it, because it's a little more uniform, is to use a die cutter. And I have this extra pad because I got a multi-tab platform for my Big Shot, and my Big Shot is like 10 years old. So so I had this extra one, and I use this for any weird kind of off-label projects that I have with my die cutter. So I go through twice. I go through once. I'm just going to show you here. I'm going to move some stuff out of the way. I go through once with just the bottle cap face down and one plate, and it's also a great way to use those old plates. I never throw them away until they crack, because it's always good to use them for this. I can feel just a tiny little bit of pressure, hardly any, but it's going to squish it just enough that I can then go in. So you just open it up a little bit more. It's going to squish it just enough so that I can put this between two plates and crank it through. And before I had an extra plate, because I've been doing this since I actually had this die cutter, before I had the extra plates, what I would do is I took a piece of hardboard, like masonite hardboard, and I had it cut to fit this, and I used that. And then you can just flex the plate to let it loose. There we go. And there is your flattened bottle cap. The first thing we're going to do is paint our bottle cap ring. You can use nail polish, or you can use acrylic paint. I'm using acrylic paint because I have it right here. And if you hold it from the center, you can actually paint it pretty well without getting your fingers dirty. And you just want to make sure you get in all of the crevices of the bottle cap. You could do it green like I did there if you want to kind of make your wreath seem a little bit bigger. But on the card, I found that that red rim just really looks nice and really stands out, especially with the fun foam glittery mounting we're going to do. And this will take probably about 10 minutes to dry, so just set it somewhere where you're not going to get your fingers in it. And you don't need to paint the middle, because that's where you're going to be gluing your embellishment. So just make sure you paint everything that's going to show. I'm going to set my my paint aside for a second. We will need it again, but the first thing we're going to want to do is simply punch a circle out of cardstock, and you want to use a 1-inch punch, just like that. And you could do a bunch of these assembly line style and get them all done at once. I'm going to wipe a little paint off my fingernail there. And to create this, it's pretty easy. You can use, for the wreath, you could use any of the holly stamps that you already have. I like to use 2 different shades of green. I'm going to start with this Cottage Ivy, which is definitely more of a darker green. You want to see which way your stamp curves. I can see it's going to curve, if I go this way, it's going to curve better than if I try to go that way. So I'm going to go kind of with the direction of the curve. And I'm looking at my registration mark there, and I want that to be kind of close to the outside rim, so it kind of looks like it's kind of growing naturally around. And I'm going to space them out a little bit so there's a gap in between each. This isn't a lot of space to work in, okay? So you just don't want to overcrowd it. You can always stamp a little bit more in, but it can get overfilled really quickly. And there's a couple other different ones there. Like that one I used the Sprig from Eden. I thought that was really pretty. And this one used the berries from Aloha, it used the holly from one of the other Christmas sets, and it used a branch from one of the other Christmas sets, so it was from the pine cone one. So I mean, you can really get creative with your stamp sets here to make these little embellishments or pins or magnets or whatever you want to do with them. So now I'm going in with bamboo leaves, and I like that because it's a little bit springier or brighter of a color, and I think it really kind of perks up the design. And I'm filling in the gaps, and this just gives it a little more dimension. There. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I thought stamping the berries looked pretty, but they weren't as bold as I liked. Like on the card here, you can see how bold those berries are. So what I'm going to do is use a stylus, and this is just a, it's a tool that actually tool painters use a lot, or you might have used with your brass stencils, but it has these two ball ends that are great for making dots with acrylic paint. So I'm going to go back to my acrylic paint here, move the ink pads out of the way, and I am going to dot on some little berries. And if you do it in little groups of 3, I think it looks nice. You do have to make sure you have a little puddle of paint there. It's hard to do if you just have a, you know, have some thin amounts. You gotta have a good amount there. You can use any acrylic paint for this. You could probably use your, you definitely could use your nail polish for this. If you use whatever you did your frame with. Then just fill in with a few miscellaneous ones. There, and there's your wreath with berries. Now I just want to show you, I'll show you what this, well, you can see how they look in the red, because I have that example right there. But maybe you wanted to do it in the green. I can carefully handle this and plop that in the green just so you could see. It's not dry yet, so I have to be careful, but I did want to show you that. You know, and that's pretty too. It just depends on what you like, so totally up to you there. So I do have one of these wreaths done, and what I think I will do, because I want to show you how you finish this off, I'm going to use the green bottle cap for my demonstration here, and we are going to use a product called Ultra Thick Embossing Enamel. It's basically a clear embossing powder. You can use any clear embossing powder, but this just will take fewer coats because the granules are thicker. Don't worry if you don't know everything I'm using. I'm going to have a full supply list in the video description. Now I'm using some clear embossing ink. You could also use just regular vegetable glycerin, and I am coating this little item with the clear ink. And then, and I'm just, this is not the one we just stamped because that one's still wet with paint, so I wanted to just do this, so I had an example for you. I'm going to cover that up so I don't get powder in there. And then I am going to dip this in my embossing powder. And you've probably seen me do this if you've watched any of my jewelry tutorials before. And that gives us a sugary coating. If you can, I'm not sure if that really shows up in camera, but you've got kind of a sugary coating there. And then what we're going to do is heat it with a heat tool. And this will take approximately 30 seconds to heat up, and we'll be back after that first layer is heated. When the first layer is heated, it's going to look very mottled. You want to stick that right back in while it's hot, and it's going to grab another layer, and then you're going to heat it again. And this one's going to need one more application to get a really nice glossy finish. Notice I'm setting my embossing powder out of the way before I heat it up so I don't blow that loose embossing powder all over my workstation. And now we have that nice molten powder. Now after this cools, what I'll do is I will remove the tweezers, clip it on the other side, and just add ink and powder just to that edge where I haven't been able to get the powder, and then I'll have a nice glossy surface like this. This is one of the gingerbread men that I stamped. So you could use any of your stamps. The jumbo peg stamps actually fit 1-inch circle perfectly. So if you have some of those jumbo peg stamps at home, you can just use them kind of on their own. You could ink the edges with some ink or just do a little stamping around the edge like I did, but the 1-inch jumbos are perfect for that. Now we are going to put the entire thing together. I think I'll just use this one because it's already done, just to show you the technique. And I'll just put it inside of this, just so you see how it's done. I'm just going to use hot glue, and I'm going to put a gob in the center. You want to put enough that it's going to kind of fill up the area when you tap it down. So I'm going to tap this in. I just want it to kind of squish out enough that it's giving me support under the entire circle. Because what happens with embossing powder is that if it flexes, you're going to get crazing all over it, which could be a really cool effect. But I don't know if you'd really want that for this because it might make the picture a little harder to see, so I'm just pressing it down in so I get that nice solid glue between the paper circle and the bottle cap. And I have to thank viewer Joey Maysky for reminding me about this technique because it is so much fun. And then on the back side, this is definitely has a right side up, so I want to keep that in mind. And on the back side, I am going to put a line of glue, and I'm going to put in a very tiny pin back. And you can get these in multi-packs at any craft store. I think this is probably a 3/4 inch one. You could go from a 3/4 inch to a 1 inch one would fit on these bottle caps. Now I'm going to show you a couple ways you can spruce up an embossed image. With this is just plain embossing. It's very elegant and pretty looking, but I thought it would be nicer if we added some color to it like I did on this one, and it's very easy to do. All you need is Q-tips and chalk, and you can even use like the stick chalks that your kids have, or even old eyeshadows that you don't like. It'll all work just fine. Any sort of chalk. These are called decorator's chalks. They come in a little palette, and mine have been dropped so many times that every once in a while I just cover them with rubbing alcohol, and then I just smush them back into place, and they're fine. I've had these probably about 10 years too, but they still work, so I still keep them. So what you want to do is just go around and you can spot color anything you want. If you go outside of an area and you want to remove it, you can just use any eraser to clean it up. And it's nice because the chalk just generally wants to grab the raised areas. So I could do that ribbon on all sides. I could go in with my brown and do those little pine cones. It's a really fun technique, and if you think of all your embossing folders, all the designs you have, think of how many colors of chalk you have, or eyeshadow, or whatever, and I mean, you can really come up with some cool designs and some cool options for supplies you already have, which I think is super important, especially when you're trying to come up with Christmas card ideas and you don't want to go out and buy a bunch of new things. You want to, make the most use out of what you have. Okay, so if you make any mistakes, just go in with any eraser. You can clean up. This one's not too bad, actually. And then what I did on the other one, because it is a card and it's going to be handled and through the mail, I just sprayed it with some Aquanet. I always choose the cheapest hairspray I can find for this. You want to look for the shortest list of ingredients because they're less likely to contain the moisturizers and silicones and things that make hairspray expensive and also might leave marks on your paper. So cheapest hairspray usually works great. Now the other technique I wanted to show you is what I did on this card, and I just used an ink pad and did this is called direct to paper. You simply just rub your ink pad over the edge, or you could use a blending foam. You do have to, this does work a little bit better on a design that's embossed that does not have an open space in the middle, because if I go like this, you can see it wants to kind of grab in the middle as well. So this is definitely better for an all-over pattern, but it's still a very useful technique to know. Since I've already colored my my panel for my card, I'm going to go ahead and use that. And I'm still working on this this batch of card bases I bought at Michael's last year, so I'm going to use that for my card base. I think the gold is pretty elegant. And a lot of people ask me about my tape runner. This is an ATG tape runner by Scotch. My friend Valerie gave me this. It's been really great. I wasn't gonna spend the money on it because I thought I have double-sided tape, but I gotta say it's very handy, and especially since I do picture framing, it's really nice for that. Now, I was looking through my dies because I don't really have a lot of dies, and I think I've mentioned that before. I did have a fun wreath from Simon Says Stamp, but it was way too big for what I wanted to do. So when I was looking for another scrap of glitter paper, because I hate to cut into a full sheet, I found some of this fun foam, glittery fun foam that I had left over from some kids' crafts. So I die cut that with this kind of cloudy looking poofy roundish die that I found, and I thought that will be perfect. And this was a flower. This is the back of a flower die from Memory Box that I used for this wreath. So open your mind when you look at your dies, because you might have a shape that's close enough, or if you don't know that's a flower, you're not going to look at this and think it's a flower, right? Look at it with fresh eyes and make the most use out of your supplies. That should be my mantra. Look at it with fresh eyes, make the most of your supplies. Supplies. You can remember that, right? The nice thing about the fun foam is that I can just insert the pin through the foam and have it come out the other side. I probably should have done that before I put it on the card base, because then my other part would be more flexible. And I also want to let you know that I used hot glue on this for kind of time's sake. It's totally fine to attach a paper, but for the pin back you might want to go into something a little bit more substantial, such as a goop or an E6000 or any other one-part epoxy. I think that is really, really fun, and this is a really quick and easy card to make. So this one has some other elements that are a little bit more advanced or just a little more time consuming. I just used some self-adhesive jewels to stick on as decorations around my wreath because it was so big. That one's not so big, so it doesn't really need all the extra. And I had some empty space in the bottom, so I just used a ribbon brad and put some of my grosgrain ribbon in there. I do love this bow though, so I want to show you how to do that. You just need a small strip of ribbon. I'd say this is about 7 inches, and you're going to roll it into a loop, and you can do this for however big you want it. And I decided that I would make a barrette, so I want to make sure it's long enough to cover my barrette here. And then what you're going to do is fold it in half and fold down the sides so you get this nice pleat. Okay? And then you're going to cut a piece of string and tie it around the center. Wrap it around a few times if you're concerned that you might not be able to tie it tight. Sometimes wrapping it around helps. And you want to tie it on the back. Although we're going to put this on a barrette and it's not really going to notice that much because we are going to, or it's not going to show very much because we're going to put our bottle cap over it. After you've tied that really tight so it's not going to come out, just trim it. Okay. And then we can glue this to the barrette with our hot glue. And I think that'll be alright because ribbon is really porous and will take the glue really well. But if you're concerned, you could sew it. That's what those little loops are for on the end. You could stitch it in there too. Just be careful because that glue is on hot metal and sometimes you can get burned. Okay, and just set that aside while the glue sets. I didn't have that centered up too well, but I think it'll all right. Now I want to show you about the hot glue. I'm going to see if I can, yeah, see I can rip that off. So that's kind of why you might want to go with like a goop or something. But that's all right because I think that'll be really cute on there. And again, since we do have the porous material, I think that it'll be fine for hot glue. It's just the pin is going to take a little bit more wear and tear. And there you have a really cute gingerbread Christmas bow, which I think any little girl would love to wear in her hair or put in her dolly's hair. I think it's really cute and another great way to use these little bottle cap embellishments. I think I got mine at the Natural Living Center. I got a huge bag of them, but you can find them online as well if you don't, want to go into a store. They're just really fun, and you could always even use a regular bottle cap that you've recycled. You just won't have that pretty border on it, but it's totally doable, and they'll look cute either way. I want to thank you so much for watching today. If you would like to find the stamps I used, I'll have them linked in the video description, as well as all of the other ones I used in my sample pieces. They're available at pegstamps.com. Don't forget to use the coupon code PINS throughout the month of November to save 10% on your order, and make sure you check them out on Cyber Monday because they're going to have a really fun sale in their store. You won't want to miss it. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And until next time, happy crafting.